I'm Tracy Sable. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, Vatican trial. Get the update on the case facing a cardinal and what it reveals about church finances. Supreme Court ethics. Democratic lawmakers push for reforms, the changes they want to see. Abortion debate. Why a Brazilian legislator launched a rosary campaign for unborn children. And box office hit. We review the success story of Angel Studios' Sound of Freedom. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us. Our top story tonight, we are following new developments in a Vatican trial. The promoter of justice for the Vatican City State accuses 10 people of financial crimes, including a cardinal. EWTN Vatican journalist Jen Copestake reports.
The promoter of justice for the Vatican City State, Alessandro Diddi, started a 2-week hearing to sum up his arguments in the high-profile case against 10 people accused of alleged financial crimes, including Cardinal Angelo Becciu, and charging officials within the Vatican Secretariat of State with serious violations of internal procedures and canon law. These violations allegedly occurred in 2012 when the officials and others decided to invest papal funds in what attorney Diddi described as highly speculative ventures, notably a $390 million London real estate project. The trial was based on the London deal, but was expanded to implicate Cardinal Becciu, once one of the most influential figures in the Vatican. Becciu resigned from his office in the Vatican and his rights and privileges as a cardinal in September of 2020. The cardinal faces allegations of donating around 125,000 euros in Vatican money to a charity run by his brother, and allegedly paying approximately 575,000 euros from Vatican funds to a self-described security expert to help secure the release of a nun kidnapped by Al-Qaeda-linked militants in Mali.
In his view, in his allegation, Cardinal Angelo Becciu was a sort of master behind any financial operation that is under allegation, under accusation here, which are the operations that led to the purchase and investment of a London luxury building. In the end, Becciu denied all the allegations. He gave a spontaneous declaration this morning, but we have to see how this indictment speech will conclude next week.
All 10 defendants denied any wrongdoing, with some claiming that the tribunal denied them basic defense rights, including access to crucial prosecution evidence. Questions were raised about Pope Francis's role in the case, as he made 4 changes to Vatican law during the investigation, which allegedly favored the prosecution. In the defense arguments, evidence was presented to suggest that both Pope Francis and the Vatican Secretary of State were aware of the various financial investments and transactions and had approved them.
Well, this is really the first time that there's been such a major trial regarding the Vatican finances, a trial in the Vatican with Vatican prosecutors. The key person in this trial, of course, is Cardinal Angelo Becciu, the former sostituto, the Deputy Secretary of State. He is the first cardinal to be tried by lay judges.
Alessandro Diddi is expected to continue detailing and defending this complex case in the coming days, and is expected to share his proposed sentences for the accused. The court will then go on summer recess until the end of September, when the defense will present its closing arguments. Judge Giuseppe Pignatone has expressed his anticipation for a verdict before the end of the year. Jen Copestake, EWTN News Nightly.
Back here in the U.S., senators debate the Pentagon's abortion policy. The controversy caused Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville to put a hold on military promotions. And now Democrat Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says that he will allow a vote on the Senate floor to affirm the current policy.
If he wants to have an affirmative vote, we would not object to it. Tuberville said he wanted a vote. We'll see what happens.
Change the policy back, because it's an unlawful policy. Change it back to what it was for the last 40 years. And then whatever the Pentagon and the Democrats want, bring it to the floor and let's vote on it. If it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, we stay with the past policy. It's that simple.
Well, since March, Senator Tuberville has blocked about 300 military promotions over the new Pentagon policy of paying for troops to travel to get an abortion. On the question tonight, can Congress create a code of ethics for the U.S. Supreme Court, a separate branch of government? Democrats think so and believe it is time after reports surface of justices receiving gifts from donors. But Republicans accuse Democrats of just being bitter over recent rulings. Capitol Hill correspondent Erik Rosales has the latest.
Good evening, Tracy. You know, the Senate Judiciary Committee was sharply divided on whether Congress has the right to require the Supreme Court to come up with a basic code of ethics. Democrats claim that the High Court has been corrupted and even accuse some of the justices of being on the payrolls of parties with cases before it.
Unlike every other federal official, Supreme Court justices are not bound by a code of ethical conduct. They are the most powerful judges in America, and yet they are not required to follow even the most basic ethical standards.
This comes after months of media reports that some of the justices, including Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Sonia Sotomayor, had failed to report certain expenses. The Democrats' bill would require Supreme Court justices to adopt a code of conduct, create a mechanism to investigate alleged violations, and require justices to explain their recusal decisions to the public. Democrat Senator Sheldon Whitehouse is the chief sponsor of the bill.
The body that implements financial disclosure and code of conduct issues is the Judicial Conference, a body created by Congress.
Republicans say this is nothing more than a messaging bill that will never pass the full Senate or Republican-controlled House, and it's unconstitutional to think Congress can dictate another branch of government.
I think the Chief Justice will address these issues. Congress should stay out of it because we don't, I think, have the jurisdiction to tell the Supreme Court how to handle the issue.
This needs to end. The effort by the left to destroy the court in the eyes of the public is one of the most dangerous things I've seen since I've been here.
In the end, the Judiciary Committee passed the bill along party lines. It now moves over to the Senate floor for a vote. Democrats also are backing bills to pack the court and to impose term limits on justices. At the Capitol, Erik Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
President Joe Biden traveled to Philadelphia today to deliver a speech at the Philly shipyard, and that is where an offshore wind vessel is being built. The president is a big proponent of green energy, but his visit may also play a role in his re-election campaign. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
Tracy, in 2020, unions helped President Biden, of course, win the White House, and he's looking for their help again in 2024. This as Republicans looking to retake the White House slam his Bidenomics agenda.
President Joe Biden attending a steel cutting ceremony for the Acadia, the vessel needed to build offshore wind farms that his administration says could support hundreds of new union jobs.
Be the first vessel of its kind that's made in America, American-owned, American-operated. And the rocks will come from American quarries and be loaded at American ports.
But his speech comes as some major unions are weighing strikes that could hurt his re-election chances. Tensions are rising between unions and companies over things like artificial intelligence, clean energy, and e-commerce. Writers and actors have walked off the job, here seen carrying signs in a picket line in New York. In addition, the United Auto Workers is starting contract talks, and members say they expect a possible strike. And the Teamsters are threatening a strike by 340,000 UPS workers if a deal is not reached with a delivery company by July 31st. And at the Philly shipyard, the president with this message.
And our plan's working, Bidenomics.
As the president touts his Bidenomics agenda, saying it's fueling America's clean energy future, the GOP is slamming the president's economic plan. In this tweet writing, under Bidenomics, you pay more and get less. And in an opinion for The Hill just the other day, Pennsylvania Republican Representative Guy Reschenthaler writes, since the president took office in January 2021, the American people have watched as Bidenomics wreaked havoc on their 401ks, destroyed their financial security, and decreased their wealth by $33,000 just this year.
The Biden administration says unions can seek better pay because of the strong job market. Unemployment is just 3.6%. Of course, the White House credits the Biden administration's policies for that, but a strike or a series of strikes could derail all that. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
A grand jury met in Washington, D.C. today to determine whether to hand down an indictment to former President Donald Trump. This comes after the former president was notified earlier this week that he was the target of an investigation into efforts to overthrow the 2020 election. If charged, it would be the third indictment that Trump has faced during his 2024 campaign. The U.S. says North Korea is not responding to American attempts to discuss the U.S. soldier who crossed the border. Army Private Travis King had just finished a prison sentence for assault in South Korea when he ran into North Korea. Private King was supposed to be on his way to Fort Bliss, Texas. Well, at least 2 people are dead following a third consecutive night of drone and missile attacks in Ukraine. The strikes focus mainly on southern Ukraine and specifically the port city of Odessa. This week alone has seen a bridge damaged between Russia and Crimea, as well as Russia's suspension of the Black Sea grain deal. While Ukrainian troops held a memorial for a U.S. veteran who helped train them, they say Nicholas Mamer was more than a soldier and instructor. They called him a friend. The retired U.S. Army Staff Sergeant from Boise, Idaho, was killed 2 months ago in Bakhmut. He was in a building struck by artillery fire.
So Nick was a professional military man. He has a distinguished career, and he was retired. He had moved on to his civilian life. He came to Ukraine because there was a big problem here. There was a big moral problem here, and he wanted to be a part of the solution.
Our Ukrainian troops are still trying to take back the city from the Russians. So a Catholic church was attacked this month, this time in El Paso, Texas. Staff of Most Holy Trinity Catholic Church have so far refused to share any information about the incident, citing an ongoing investigation by the local police department. The church posted an official statement expressing gratitude for law enforcement, as well as asking for prayers for all those involved. A Brazilian lawmaker is launching a campaign to pray the rosary live on Instagram as Brazil faces the threat of legalizing abortion. Congresswoman Chris Tonieto will transmit a total of 14 live broadcasts through August 3rd on her Instagram account. Priests, artists, and Catholic politicians will also participate in the live event. Well, Virginia issued new education policies this week, stating parents are a child's primary and most important educator. The guidance asserts that parents will be permitted to make the best decisions for their children, including whether a child can present as a member of the opposite sex. The new rules also state that students participating in athletic programs will be determined by sex and not so-called gender identity. Well, we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including a historic discovery, what Palestinian archaeologists unearthed in a Roman-era gravesite, and that they may all be one. Learn about the upcoming African National Eucharistic Congress. Thanks for staying with us. Palestinian archaeologists made a surprising discovery in a Roman-era gravesite. A lead sarcophagus was found in Gaza City, the second found in a cemetery dating back to about 2,000 years. Studies show that it was typical for royalty to be buried in lead because of its ability to preserve the body for a longer period of time. Excavators are certain that they have uncovered the site of many Roman rulers. Well, the 4th African National Eucharistic Congress begins tomorrow in Washington, D.C. Every 5 years, the Congress meets to bring African Catholics from across the country together to share their faith and heritage and to celebrate the living presence of Christ in the Eucharist. Now, joining us now to tell us more is Danielle Brown, Associate Director, USCCB Ad Hoc Committee Against Racism. Danielle, great to be with you today. First off, tell us a little bit more about this gathering and why it's so important.
Yeah, so this particular gathering is actually sponsored by the USCCB's Committee on Cultural Diversity in the Church. We have a subcommittee that is devoted to the pastoral care of migrants, refugees, and travelers. And it's an opportunity for African Catholics in the United States to get together, to support each other, and really to focus on the Eucharist as the source and the summit of not only their faith, our faith, but their community.
Yeah, and what are some of the specific topics that will be addressed?
Sure. So there will be several breakout sessions. I will be leading one with one of the members of the Ad Hoc Committee Against Racism on our pastoral letter, most recent pastoral letter, Open Wide Our Hearts. They're doing Call to Love. There'll be sessions on engaging youth and young adults. There'll be sessions on faith formation, and certainly sessions based upon the Eucharist.
And tell us about the theme this year, and also, how you all chose that.
Sure. So the theme was unity, and just like every other effort of the USCCB, we have a number of collaborators that come together and are landing on that central theme as one of particular importance. I think unity is particularly important in the United States as it relates to Africa, in part because the continent of Africa is giving us so much as the universal church. We have to realize that 60% of the world's new Catholics in 2018 were African, that they added 1,649 priests in 2019. And in 2019, they were the only continent to actually increase the number of major seminarians. They were up to 509 in that particular year. So it's important for us in the United States to really recognize and give due respect and also pastoral care to this community.
Yeah, and Danielle, I'm curious, what are your hopes, for the Congress, and what would you like those who attend, what would you like to be their takeaway from it?
Yeah, I really do hope that they experience a sense of unity, that they experience the USCCB in particular, recognizing the gifts, and not just their gifts, but also the diversity within the communities that come from Africa, and that they will go away renewed in their faith and energized to take our Eucharistic Lord out wherever they go.
And I understand it starts tomorrow, goes through the 23rd. We have about 30 seconds left or so, Danielle. But before I let you go, what else would you like our viewers to know?
Sure. They should know that this weekend there is also the National Black Catholic Congress that is going on. This takes place every 5 years and was started way, way back in the 1800s. It's an important weekend for the Black community and the Catholic Church at large. I would ask everyone to just check out the website for the National Black Catholic Congress and see all the speakers that will be presenting there. And just to know that, these communities, they may be small, but they're definitely mighty.
Absolutely. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for your time today and sharing all this with us. We appreciate it. God bless you.
You too. Thanks.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, tourist season. How the Catholic Church in Spain balances sanctity and secularism. Plus, the new movie Sound of Freedom is soaring at the box office. How it became #2 in the charts in the span of just 2 weeks. Welcome back. The summer tourist season poses a challenge for iconic churches as they struggle to accommodate both worship and sightseers. Now, some churches in Southern Europe have seen a huge increase in tourism, even surpassing pre-pandemic levels. But the challenge remains to ensure the sacred spaces retain their spiritual purpose. Some churches are capping the number of tourists so daily mass and confession are not interrupted.
I think it should be given to the people first of the area, but I mean, you do a wonderful job, obviously, to the tourists also. It's just, it's such a draw that must be so hard to keep both sides happy, Now,
there is an upside to the busy tourist season, as it could be an opportunity to to spread the faith. Well, Sound of Freedom has been enjoying what can be described as a miraculous run at the American box office in the few weeks since its release on July 4th. The Angel Studios produced film currently sits at #2 on the box office charts, sitting right behind the new Mission Impossible film. In fact, on the day of its debut, Sound of Freedom reached #1, beating out Disney's 5th Indiana Jones film. The independent film has now grossed a whopping $100 million. And joining us now is Patti Armstrong with the National Catholic Register. Patti, great to have you on today. Sound of Freedom really has exceeded all expectations at the box office. It's just one of 10 movies in history to have a second weekend sales increase over 35% from its opening weekend. Why do you think a movie like this has been so popular?
Well, it really is a mission. Real life person, and Jim Caviezel, I've interviewed both of them for the Register. They put their life on the line. This is about human trafficking, child sex trafficking, and it's really going on. They want to make a difference. They want to wake people up, get them to stop looking away and feel like this is everybody's problem. These are our children. We need to care about this. And people are grabbing onto that. And if they didn't go the first weekend, a lot of times it was because they couldn't find a seat, that it was sold out. And they're waiting, they're coming back, and it's remarkable that the audiences are building. It's one of the few movies where the second week is even bigger than opening week. So people care because the real life person and the actor that plays him, they care.
Yeah, it really is incredible. Patti, I'm curious, what do you think about this? I mean, how are they able to take such a difficult subject and, shed light on it and bring it to a mass audience, and people want to see a movie like this?
I previewed it. I didn't want to see it. And I thought, but I need to see it. And I just had somebody tell me that the other day. It's a movie I didn't want to see, but it's probably the most powerful movie I've ever seen. And people are saying that. And Jim Caviezel, people have a lot of respect for him. He played Jesus Christ in The Passion of the Christ. And so they're saying this is something we need to do. If you care about children, if you care about the sex trafficking, then how could you not go to this movie and stir those emotions and be on high alert and realize we all need to be a part of this, be a part of the solution, and not be asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, this movie really does, and I know you mentioned it in your review, kind of move people from apathy to action. Why do you think that's the case? If you can delve into that a little bit more. And what about you? I mean, what have you heard from others who've gone to the movie? What have they said about it?
Well, we did do an article with the Register about that, how it's stirring people. And we talked to just the regular moviegoer in the seat. And we also talked to people like Kevin Wells at World Villages, where they have, they've educated over 150,000 children. Some have gotten out of sex trafficking, some they're preventing them from going in. And you've got everybody on the same page. They're on the same page with Jim Caviezel, who says, this makes a difference. And he stuck his neck out because he's had a lot of backlash from it. And so we all feel like, okay, we need to know. And so people are going and they're caring. And that's why with one of the movies with one of the reviews and articles I did, I put references on some Catholic resources. What can we do? And part of it is just being aware and alert and noticing something's not right and maybe calling the police or, contributing and supporting the organizations that are helping victims. For instance, Metanoia Manor in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, that for 5 years they've been up and running and helping victims of sex trafficking. The average age is 13. The youngest was 11 years old. He has founded that along with Father Chuck Swanson, who's the chaplain, and they are like, this is beyond our imagination for most of us. And so we need to, first of all, recognize that it's happening and what's our role in this? And maybe we don't know what our role, maybe we need to ask God, what can I do to make a difference? But the first part is making people aware and then getting them to care. And then from that point on, organizations that are making a difference.
Yeah, that's so important to mention. I mean, once you see that movie, you saw it, I saw it. I mean, you want to do something, and you feel like you have to do something. Patti, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. God bless you.
Thank you, Tracy. God bless you.
And you can read more of Patti Armstrong's articles in the National Catholic Register. Just go to ncregister.com. And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sable. Good night, and God bless.